this year, and we have another very interesting CEO to talk about internet-related issues, and in particular about his company and the technology that they've deployed. Zello Incorporated CEO Bill Moore joined State of the Net to tell the story of building and scaling Zello, a simple walkie-talkie app that has wide-ranging applicability, from saving lives in disasters to driving efficiency in business. This fall, rescue workers in Texas relied on Zello to find and save flood victims stranded by Hurricane Harvey. It became the communication hub for the Cajun Navy. Mr. Moore has been CEO of Zello for over 6 years, growing the company's user base to about 100 million. Mr. Moore is also the founder of the audio streaming service TuneIn, which offers thousands of radio stations on demand to more than 75 million users. And today we're going to talk about the power of internet apps like Zello to save lives during emergencies, and of course, the importance of the internet in enabling new technologies and companies like Zello. So, Bill, welcome very much. We're delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's give him a round of applause. Tell us more about Zello. You have a free version and a paid version.
Sure. So as you explained, Zello is a walkie-talkie app. You download it, put it on your phone. And if anybody's had the thrill as a kid of playing with a walkie-talkie, it really brings that. Zello is about live voice communication. Our mission is to improve human flourishing through live voice communication, whether it's for companionship or cooperation solving problems. And it's such a fine medium to work with. You know, the internet today is a sterile, hostile place with lots of text and pictures. And live voice, as we are now, is wonderful because it's real. I can't fake. You know, pauses, not sure what to come up with. But that creates a level of intimacy that doesn't exist in text or photos or other style communication. Voice demands attention from both sides. It creates trust. It's how we most naturally communicate. A 2-year-old can use Zello. A 92-year-old person can use Zello. And so back to your question, there's two parts of Zello. One's a consumer app where we have 120 million registered users. And so they'll use it to stay in touch with friends or family, or people they don't know. And so they can be these live channels that are private or public channels. And the other half of Zello, the revenue model really, is that companies use Zello to replace two-way radios as they're deploying mobile apps to their workforce. And so somebody will be rolling out some workflow application and kind of think, why are we spending $500, $1,500 on these secure radios? They send text and they're secure and location, but the $100 iPod does the same thing for a retail worker or a $150 Android phone for a mobile worker.
And how do you monetize that? How does that
So it's $6 per user per month for companies that use that. And the main difference is companies get a private network and central administration. But of course, the vast majority of the use is with the individuals who use the free consumer version.
Excellent, very good. Now, tell us about some of these very practical applications that may not have been anticipated by people when they found themselves in a crisis, like the so-called Cajun Navy, boats going out into neighborhoods to find people and rescue them out of their houses, and had to coordinate that information. What can you tell us about that?
It wasn't a complete surprise because radio has always been a go-to communication tool when the stakes are high. Again, it's live voice. You can hear emotion. You can communicate. You can organize large groups of people very efficiently. And really, the first inkling we've had in these crisis situations is in various countries, Zello has been the #1 overall app. And it started in Turkey, and this is the Arab Spring, and in Egypt. The government of Venezuela shut down Zello during the height of their troubles, which unfortunately haven't ended a few years ago. Also in Ukraine, Zello was the number one overall app. Another use case that we had seen before Harvey, that I'll get to here in a second, is South Africa has a terrible crime problem, and they have built a crowdsourced kind of a neighborhood watch on steroids, a 911 backup around Zello across the whole country with millions of people that use it. It's been very effective there. So the group Cajun Navy gets the credit. If anybody saw the news or watched what happened with Hurricane Harvey especially, but also Irma and some others, they came together after Katrina, seeing the problem, the hole there. And I love the name, the Cajun Navy, but they came to Houston for Harvey. And Zello was first used because they had some attention, and they've over multiple incidents they've learned that Zello works really great. So they said if you can help, get on Zello. If you need help, get on Zello. And so there were thousands and thousands of people who came from Texas and nearby with trucks and boats and chainsaws and fuels. And so as they're on the highway driving, they're finding Zello channels, and they're finding these dispatchers that emerged kind of bottom up, who are sending them to the right places. And then as people are needing help, they're finding Zello channels and getting on and asking for help. So it was very effective, very exciting. Zello was just the communication tool. It was these thousands of volunteers in the management efforts that they brought to bear that was so effective.
So is this an example of the internet and new technology undercutting or supplementing the traditional way that people would have addressed this? In prior disasters, prior hurricanes, the one in New Orleans, for example, and that whole area along the South Coast, didn't have this technology available, so very few people would have had the ability to have that kind of instant communication, because only the police, fire and rescue organizations would have the big traditional walkie-talkie type devices. And now you've got everybody able to communicate with everybody else who has a device and has put this app on the device.
It's so supplementing. There's some overlap, and there's plenty of room to improve. Maybe we can get into of how do these public agencies who have the rule of law, right, and are structured and trained, work better with a huge number of volunteers. But forever, a disaster recovery means you set up a tent on site, hand out radios that cost, as I said, $1,000, $1,500. Protocols for who can use them. If you have a radio, you're pretty special, and there's a command structure that's been created around that. So we saw with Harvey and also Irma and another example in Puerto Rico and another one in Mexico I could get to if you like. But now everybody has a radio, right? Anybody that has a mobile phone can download an app, and it's all taking advantage of the infrastructure that that makes this possible. It's reliable, it's super fast, it's available to everybody, and not only that, they don't have to be on site. So what we saw was these dispatchers that emerged as they put together within hours an amazingly effective process for who gets help, what's the channel structure look like, what are the rules, how do you get people effective, and these dispatchers didn't need to be in the tent. In fact, half of them were out of state. Some were one of the best was in New Jersey, working from their bedroom, on a mobile phone. And so it's this wonderful infrastructure that that we can take advantage of. That's going to happen bottom up because it's there and people can get to it and they want to help.
And that's not how most people are using it. This is something that families are deploying so they can talk to maybe a parent or someone else who's living by themselves, and this is their means of communicating with their family.
There's so many use cases and a really broad demographic of the kinds of people that use Zello. But friends and family would be one, right? You want a ski trip. There's really no reason to buy walkie-talkies, right? You're going to have great data coverage on the slopes. Or you're going camping, probably the same. Or you have a chat group with your friends. You want to organize young people going out to the bar, right? Perfect for that. Or it's also popular for connecting with people you don't know through these. There's millions of these public channels. And often they're about a topic. The Austin Mini Cooper Club, and they have a road rally. And so everybody's going to get on a Zello channel for that rally. Or there's a channel called the Glasgow channel, profanity-laden. It's fun to listen to when you're drinking, with your buddies. Or Weather Watcher, storm chaser channels, or religious evangelization channels, or all sorts of these public channels. So it's usually one of those two use cases.
Very good. And how has network infrastructure played a role in innovations like Zello?
Yeah, well, it's been so exciting. I spent the first half of my career in enterprise networking and early, internet protocols and that sort of thing. And so you fast forward, now 20, 30 years, and unbelievable, these devices everybody has in their pocket that are so cheap and so fast and so great. And so companies like Zello, there's 23 people, in the company, with 120 million users, and making a difference and just the the leverage and the power that those these layers of technologies have had on society it's been so much fun to watch and so exciting, and it wouldn't exist in any way whatsoever had that not existed.
So with that in mind, what role do you see the public having in encouraging that kind of investment in infrastructure that's necessary to make something like Zello work?
Well, as a free market style guy, this will be personal. Be careful and let's not fix what's not broken. It's worked extraordinarily well with a relatively, touch, plenty of problems. One of the things that's become clear to me at Zello through the emergencies, you brought this up earlier was, how much a supplement, how what's friend, what's foe, but it's clearly friend, and it's also easy to see that the official organizations are, look in where I think you can help and senior people can help by, looking out, like what's happening here and whether it came from inside this organization or not. It's, how do we best use these, these new technologies and alternatives that are moving so much faster because they're in such a different environment than inside large organizations.
So you're a Texas-based company.
Yeah.
Is that a decision made to locate there, or is it that you were there and the company's there because?
No, very purposeful. So the company TuneIn really was built in Texas, and we moved to Palo Alto for venture investors and to hire people. And it was in Dallas, and Zello came out of some of the same team. And the short list was, do we move this to San Francisco, Palo Alto, or to Austin, Texas? And we chose Austin with no regrets. Texas is a wonderful business climate. Austin has a pretty, and selling Austin, but it really is a fabulous place with a culture that the slogan is "Keep Austin Weird." And it's true. There's in every dimension. It accepts unorthodox behavior and thinking. There's a top world-class university there. And it's very easy to encourage people to move to Austin, where we don't have the talent we need locally. So that's been a great decision on our part.
So what should states and cities be thinking about in trying to attract investment and businesses and tech talent like you've brought together with Zello?
Yeah, I wonder how much they can do. Stay out of the way would be one answer. Again, a light touch. It does feel like so much of it needs to be organic. A university has got to be key wherever you see these technology communities working, and I guess government can help quite a lot there.
So before Zello, you founded TuneIn, an audio streaming service, and many of you may not know it, but you've listened to TuneIn. TuneIn streams podcasts and audio through Amazon's Alexa and other smart home devices. Tell us about TuneIn and your journey from TuneIn to Zello.
Sure. And the journey to TuneIn started early in my career. I wanted a company and went through, way too long getting ready. I have to learn all these different disciplines. And so my own story was 9/11 happened, and at the year I was 40 years old, and I thought, well, it's a wake-up call. It's time to do it. And the original idea was TiVo for radio, because from high school I'd wanted a TiVo for radio. I love audio. I love radio, and I thought, okay, it was VCR for radio. Now there's a TiVo. Let me build that to learn. Not many people want that, but. Through a pretty tough period, 5, 6, 7 years of supporting connected devices for a radio feature, the iPhone came out with apps, and it exploded and quickly became a top overall app, top 50 app for quite a while in most of the markets around the globe. And then finally, about that time, we had a knock from Sequoia Capital, who said, "Hey, we like what's going on. Why don't we help? Why don't you move this to Palo Alto?" We did. I wasn't there too much longer, and about that time, Zello was really the brainchild of a guy, Alex Gavrilov, who's the founder and CTO, and he and his team had done such great work from St. Petersburg, Russia. So we had used, this amazing development team, and I had tried to get a handful of those people into TuneIn with some success. He was a holdout. So I'm out of TuneIn, and he starts to get some traction with Zello, which I was immediately drawn to, because it's a different kind of radio. It's we call it social radio, but instead of being, one to many, it can be that, but it's about live, conversations, peer conversations. And when you listen to Zello or listen to these channels, you hear the power in it, that people have Zello campouts. They send us their Zello pictures. If you search Facebook for Zello, you'll see tens of thousands of these communities that come together. So it's a pretty easy decision to be able to help Alex in a way that he needed, this group of unbelievable talent from St. Petersburg, Russia, who needed some business help, and that was the point we moved to Austin.
So here in the room we have a lot of people engaged in internet technology, public policy issues, but we also have some entrepreneurs here, and online we have lots of people who are starting up their own tech companies. Any advice you'd give them?
Well,
you've had two successes.
Yeah, two successes, and I guess one major mistake was making decisions because you're afraid, because it's hard. And when I look back, most of my mistakes have been because of that, right? You're doing something because you're afraid of what may go wrong. And in the case of TuneIn, we really had no revenue model, and so there was good reason to be afraid for a long time. Independent, and so happily with Zello, we have a wonderful revenue model, and both because I'm a little more experienced and mature, but also because there's cash in the bank, I'm not nearly as afraid, and so you find a revenue model that works where you're not dependent on outside money coming in for too long, because that's pretty risky business.
So these companies have a bit of a connection between the two as well. Radio has, in recent years, been viewed as kind of old tech, as opposed to electric cars or the Internet of Things. What is your take on that? Why is radio such an exciting innovation for you?
Well, I let off. It's radio's about voice, right? It's music, or it's news, or talk, or sports, or conversations, or podcast is a form of radio. It is such a fundamental part of being human, and so it's been around forever. And as radio, or phone calls, is it AM, or is it FM, or is it ham radio, or CB radio? Is it satellite radio? Those are really incidental, but the medium itself is very exciting. It's as an advertising medium, it's phenomenal, right? It's somebody you trust, in your head as a way of solving problems, as a way of passing time. And one of the great things about radio is it's a companion. You can enjoy radio, you can enjoy audio while you're doing something else. So unlike a video, you can be driving and listening, or running and listening, and so it's it's a medium that's always with you. And in the Zello version, it's a medium, as I explained, that has so much power to communicate compared to text, but it doesn't have the barriers or the cost of a video. It doesn't have the social barriers. When are you going to turn on your Skype camera? It's a pretty high bar before most people are comfortable. Versus when would you turn on your microphone? So as a fundamental that we enjoy as humans, it's so important, isn't going away. It's a great mix with technology. I'm so excited about Alexa and these new voice-controlled applications, that are creating a whole nother wave of audio entertainment.
So TuneIn streams a lot of sports. including my favorite Major League Baseball. And I'm wondering, is the future of tune-in live events like sports or music and so on?
TuneIn has been anchored on live from the beginning, and it's one of the things that's so special about radio. It's live. It's happening now. There's something special about that. And of course, sports really demand live, and so in TV and radio both there's a recognition that that's a core. Advertising, audio advertising is a pretty tough business. TuneIn's moved to be building a subscription option, which is great because it's tough it's also true for podcast and other, the talent on the other end. There's really still not yet a great digital market for audio ads, but sports is important, news, talk, and of course music.
Excellent. Good. Have time for some questions, Jerry?
Yeah, one question. Can you explain your infrastructure need when you say someone's, can talk while they're driving along? Is that passed to the cell network, or do you need a constant internet connection? What kind of bandwidth do you need?
Well, you need some kind of data connection. There was some bad information really at the start of Florida, the hurricanes. It worked without by magic, I guess. I don't know, but no, it needs a network. It could be any kind of network. It could be Wi-Fi, or it could be cell. But it works well on 2G networks, and it's worked well around the globe in countries that have really terrible networks. And it typically works when nothing else works. And so that's one of the reasons it's been popular in crisis situations. But you've got to have something.
More questions? Yes, sir.
Sure. My name is Kerry Hinton. I'm with the D.C. Public Service Commission. The federal government and states are investing, frankly, billions of dollars in deploying a nationwide FirstNet network. The description of Zello sounds like it would eliminate the need for that type of investment. Am I misunderstanding what your service provides?
Well, first responders need a reliable network. They need to be able to communicate between agencies. There's a need, I am sure, for FirstNet-style technologies. And I'm not that close to FirstNet. Our business traction is really in the commercial sector first, although we have some government business. That these agencies need a network that's reliable, where they can communicate between organizations. It doesn't need to be radio. I think it's been tough for these agencies. As a citizen, you look at the amount of spectrum that's allocated for public service, for technologies that are reliable. They've been around a long time, but the real-life reliability of today's cell networks, are unbelievable. And so applications like Zello can ride over the top without all the money or complications, and are certainly well suited. Zello is well suited for citizens, and this match of citizens and agencies. I'm pretty excited about how can Zello help do better there.
I am informed we have time for one more question. Your hand went up first.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Lorelei Kelly. I'm at Georgetown. I work with Congress on bringing it into the 21st century. So I'd be really interested in hearing both of your opinions on this. So Congress is really not kept up with digital technology. Certainly, it's also just working at 45% less capacity on expertise than it had in the 1970s.
How do you measure that?
I can actually get you the data.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It's only been recently that there's been longitudinal data. It's things like 30 to 50% of hearings that are happening. So there's whole deliberative functions that have fallen off the radar screen for many reasons. The one idea that some of us have is that we create through technology and data and social media sort of C-SPAN Channel 4, which doesn't exist right now. But it would be a civic purpose channel that has sort of a curation purpose for Congress that sort of breaks through the sort of time and space restrictions that this old marble institution has to find and locate optimal knowledge from people's own constituents in their districts. And I know, Mr. Goodlatte, you have been on top of the internet forever and was a co-founder of the caucus in the 90s, I believe, when I worked on the Hill. And it seems like now it's possible to do this. But the problem is there's really no, as you put it, there's no revenue model for Congress. It's a public serving organization. And the privatization of this kind of service would be a disaster, I think, unless there were really strict rules put around it to protect it. Do you see this as something that possibly the technology and data industry might do on behalf of democratic institutions?
Well, yes, I guess would be the short answer. What's realistic? How much, can we help? One of the lessons from Harvey back to something scale is these self-organizing with the right infrastructure and the right rules respond to meet the needs of society in such a wonderful way, right? I mean, of course, a free market is based on that principle. Not totally. Would a Wikipedia-style market work for the public dissemination and orchestration and of that? I don't know. So that's way outside of my zone of expertise. But I know at Zello, we're totally satisfied when you see what you've worked on be used for good and make a difference in society. And I am sure that's true for most every other technology business.
So there's a challenge for both of us. So I think we are the last thing standing between you and lunch. And therefore, we're going to get out of the way. And Tim will, or someone will tell you how to go about getting lunch.
Thank you.
Good work. That was very good.
Thank you.